Welcome to No Clip, the podcast that's like a book club for people who don't think that books reward them enough for being good at them. I'm Chad Ruthermans.
And I'm Andy Kinnick.
And today, we're going to be talking about Prey. Prey is a game that was developed by Arcane Studios, published by Bethesda, and was released in 2017 on Windows, PS4, and Xbox One.
But first, if you give us a like or a rating, it'd be greatly appreciated.
Mm-hmm. And Prey is a first-person shooter immersive sim game, and it has differing elements of each of those depending on how you want to play, putting it much more in line with the sort of progenitors of this genre than a lot of games that sort of take inspiration have been in a long time. And this was a really interesting one for me to go to because of my extreme lack of experience with modern immersive sims.
And I've got even less. This is what, my second one ever?
Potentially, yeah. But I want to answer a question that you had briefly just before. I'll splice in the audio here.
Mm-hmm. Why did they even call it Prey? Anyway, welcome to the podcast.
And the reason that they called this game Prey is one of the interesting things about the development and lead up to this game that basically nobody talks about now because it's not interesting holistically. It just was at the time. Mm-hmm. Technically speaking, this is a reboot of a game called Prey that came out in 2006. Where you play as a Native American man who is abducted by aliens and goes to save his girlfriend. And it wasn't a bad game. It has nothing to do with Prey 2017 at all. And I'm pretty sure Arcane just wanted to use the title, so they had to buy the rights to the game so that they could use it.
I see. I assumed it was just like a name recognition thing.
Possibly.
It's like a PR move. Like, we'll call it this because people know this.
Right. But that's the thing. People know Super Mario.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that many people know Prey.
I guess. I still think, like, that is, like, the power of a brand name, though. Like,
True.
Versus a brand new IP. Like, if you can call it something that, like, some people have heard of before, that will get it some traction.
Then, yeah. And also, like I said, people talked about it a lot in the lead up to the game. Mm-hmm. So it probably did something. I'm fully on board with that explanation.
Yeah. On board the space station?
I'm fully on board the space, fucking Talos 1 on that one.
Because I'd never even, like, seen a screenshot or any video or anything of the original Prey, and I was just looking at it before we sat down to record, and I was very surprised how different it looked.
Yeah, it's a strange one, and we'll talk about Prey 2017 at some point, but I do want to shout out my favorite thing about Prey 2006 from when I played it as a kid, which was a gun that was... The guns in the game are all just regular guns with a weird aesthetic, basically, and their shotgun stand-in just shot like a big blob of goo. And so I called it the snot gun, and it was my favorite weapon in the game. Anyway, Prey 2017... The Arcane developed game is what we're actually talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So I played this game when the demo came out back in 2017 when the game released for the first time. And it's a game that I've wanted to play for a while. And it is Fanbruary, and it was suggested to us, and I used that as a big old excuse to finally go back and play it. But the thing that I remembered the most from the demo is being mercilessly slaughtered repeatedly. Like, I thought this game was nutso hard the first time that I played it. And it is still pretty brutal, but it's funny that they even had a free demo for this. There's so many games that don't. And the first hour of this game is so punishing. I don't know if they made a lot of sales based on it.
Yeah, I also remember that demo. I don't know if I was there when you played it the first time or if you had me play it because I thought it would be interesting. But I think it came out in an era, a not so long ago era, where AAA games did this sort of thing, where they have this very like set piecey kind of flashy beginning. I know like Arkham Knight or whatever the open world one is
one of them, yeah.
Has an opening like that. Just had another one in mind, and Metal Gear Solid 5 had one like that. Prey has one like that. And at least it's super effective on me because I still think the beginning of the game is like up there as like one of my favorite parts.
Yeah.
And I remembered it. Like I did like immersive sims aren't really my thing. I don't dislike them, but there's not a big draw for me either. But like I remembered that demo, and when it came up, I also was interested in coming back to it. So I think that is something that there's some value in, but it definitely seems that it's fallen out of favor.
Yeah.
Because it was just like a brief trend, it seemed like.
Yeah, and to talk about that intro a little bit, it is extremely cool. And that goes both visually and mechanically. Like, it's a really cool way to start your game by basically giving you full control over your character and allowing you to do stuff, and then putting you in this, like, really goofy almost, but, like, spectacle enough that it doesn't seem goofy in the moment, of you, like, in the helicopter flying by, like, the name of the studio being projected on a skyscraper. It looks so good.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really cool moment.
Yeah, I think it's great, and it does. And then like having you go through the whole like first day with the experiments and stuff, and then breaking out.
Yeah, it feels like it could be its own like short like game in and of itself. Like you're stuck in a simulation and you have to realize it and escape it.
Right.
That probably is a game.
Oh yeah, I gave you the symbol because that game that we played, A Semblance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But one like this is going to be like a more accessible version of that. Because that one's pretty
obtuse.
Yeah, that's the word.
It's a weird one.
But yeah.
Maybe we'll do a pocket on it sometime.
Maybe.
It's an interesting game. Yeah, as far as like simulation games go, and I guess I mean that in two ways, but I didn't when I started the sentence. As a game set inside of a simulation, and also, I'm giving it away with the spoiler alert, and I apologize. Spoiler alert, this game has a twist. So get the fuck out in 3, 2, 1. The whole game is a simulation within the simulation that you're shown at the beginning. And the fact that it sets it up like that, foreshadowing, some may say, giving it away by being like, oh, he didn't turn into the chair. Like, when you go through the tests and stuff, it does sort of require you to know what the mimics are in order to contextualize that in your head. But I don't think it would be too far-fetched to guess the ending of this game before you're even 20 minutes in.
Yeah, so you just showed me that secret ending or true ending. Or
it's just the regular ending.
Oh,
it's just what happens after the credits.
The regular ending.
Yeah.
But like 15 minutes ago, and because I didn't quite get to beat the game, but like I had written in my notes like right before watching this scene, like I really liked the beginning. Like I was writing about that, as I just said, like with the hologram screens and like the fact that like, you're stuck inside a simulation and how that matches nicely with the mimics and like it have a cool theme going on. I was like, they kind of just dropped that though. But then lo and behold, it comes back big picture. So like I didn't call that the whole thing was going to be a simulation, but I did kind of pick up on the fact that like they do a sleight of hand, like show it to you up front and then make you forget about it till the end.
Yeah. I agree, and for all of the blustering I just did about how the beginning of it kind of gives away, I also didn't
It just
pick
sets
up
it
on
up,
it.
yeah.
It sets it up in a way that you could sort of, even as you learn more about the game and the world that it's set in, you can kind of like contextualize it in different ways that are technically wrong, where it's like, oh, like maybe they're testing the neuromod because you get that mimic matter ability, and like maybe they wanted me to do that, like they installed the neuromod but I didn't know because I was in simulation, that kind of a thing. um Not that it exceedingly matters, but it calls into sort of one of the things that I like about this game narratively. It does not have like a big arcing story with a bunch of different plot beats to it. It has a really like I wanted to say immersive, that's not the word. It has a like a evolving story that you have to sort of like piece everything together.
Yeah, it's at least from what I know, like a very immersive sim style story where you're like plopped down into a game world that's like during its downfall, and you interact with like these larger than life kind of characters that are like clinging to the power positions they had, and those are like the primary like NPCs you interact with and stuff like that.
Yeah. And also the fact that you rarely actually interact with the NPCs. They're always like voices on the radio. The fact that they do exist in this game is almost like kind of a novelty to some extent within the genre. It's really cool. I think that they do it really well, and it makes you think about the state of things and how like everything is working in tandem within the ship without ever having to like stop you and sit you down and be like, here's what's going on.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it always keeps you moving. It's you're basically just trying to escape and deal with like the alien threat. And so like it is pretty organic, like just like things keep happening as things go awry and this and that, and things are falling apart, and like you just kind of are moving from thing to thing. And it's a really, I think, organic, like, because it's like a classic video game trope to like try and save NPCs to see their stories or have it like affect the main plot in some way, and like having like being able to access like the crew list and see who's still alive and try and like save specific people. I just thought it was a good way to do it and not make it feel like too prescribed.
Yeah, I agree. I also, that crew list on the security stations is so overwhelming.
Yeah, there's a ton of people.
I kept imagining, like, is there a guy out there who, like, because I could imagine being this guy, but I wasn't this guy in this case, who just, like, goes through the list and, like, tags each person and then goes and finds their corpse and loots it, comes back, and then checks the next person. I feel like that would be insane, but it theoretically is possible to do in this game. And I think that's the design ethos of Prey, is theoretically possible. There's a lot of stuff that you can do in this game. The question is, will you? I don't want to necessarily stick on narrative stuff this early, both for general flow reasons and because I think I will run hard into a wall if I try and go too much into it. So let me talk about, I guess, how I mentioned that the demo and the first part of this game are really brutal, and pass it over and see, did you have a hard time in the way that I did when I first played it?
I didn't. I found the beginning of the game to be pretty manageable. For me, it got really... I've had a difficulty spike when you got like past the first third. I felt like there was just like all of the med packs and food and ammo just disappeared from the game. But then it kind of evened back out as I like got upgrades and stuff. So yeah, for me, the hard part was like the middle-ish chunk.
Right.
But no, I didn't think the beginning was too bad. I might have been overly cautious and just like hit everything when I walked into the room with a wrench. But I don't know. Yeah, for me, it wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
To start out.
I did know the answer to that question before I
Yeah.
asked it, but I did need to get that in there. Because it's interesting, because I think it highlights how different playstyles go through this game differently, because pretty much as soon as I started having more ready access to the fucking superpowers you get, everything became a whole lot easier for me. And I remember there being parts during that beginning, like your first trip through the hardware labs, is like it feels like a huge part of the game, when I'm doing it, I guess, because I'm like trying to sneak by the phantoms and not be burned to death by the corrupted operators, and doing all this stuff to try to avoid detection and like inevitably failing. And I remember a period where I like opened a door and was immediately shocked by a thing next to me, and I was like, this is bullshit. Like, classic just got angry at the game for doing something totally fair within its rights to do. I could have seen the electric box through the window of the door, but I didn't check, and I got shocked for it. And I just committed myself to die and reload because I couldn't afford the health that I lost. And just like going from that to like the end of this game where I could like basically literally fly, it's such an evolution. And the way that like my playstyle was, I felt like I was being rewarded for the stuff that I was actually doing once I got into that. It's just that early that early game stuff. Trying to be too cautious got me killed more often than I thought it would.
Yeah, I think that's the difference, is like I played more aggressive because I felt like I had so many things to heal with.
Right.
Because you get like so much food at the beginning. You just like open the quick menu and slam like it's The Witcher 3.
Yeah, just gonna eat up my whole inventory. I didn't actually even know that you could eat food from the quick menu until you mentioned it to me. So I basically never ate food until near the end of the game. Well, I guess like the halfway point of the game. And even that is interesting. Like the fact that how the food works, it like gives you 5 health and then also gives you a buff that regenerates health. So like technically speaking, if you wanted to be efficient, I guess, like optimally efficient in a lame way, you could eat one piece of food, wait until the health regen buff runs out, then eat one more piece of food and regenerate 100 health over like an hour. But you're not gonna do that. You're gonna slam the button to just munch down 100 eclairs.
It's the only way to do that in games like this.
Yeah. But I tried it the other way. I got the ability that makes the well-fed buff last twice as long and food heals for more, and was like, let's see if I can heal with food. No.
Well, yeah, if you waited till after halfway through the game, you barely get any of it.
Well, sort of, because that's the other thing I wanted to mention is you had a hard time in the third mark of the game because there's just a set number of items and you just got them all early.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you don't scrounge around and pick up all the food, there will still be food after the halfway point.
Fair enough.
That wasn't true for me. You were correct in your assumption, but it would have been possible. I ended up scrapping a lot of food, like in the recycler for organic material. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Once you get more ready, like access to the matter replicator or whatever is the fabricator. Yeah. Which is one of my like favorite things in this game. It's very Star Trek. I love that you can just like take stuff from the environment and put it in like a recycling thing, and it turns everything into like these cubes and orbs of whatever kind of matter they are. Then you put them in the fabricator and make stuff out of them. It's very cool.
Yeah, it's extremely rad.
Yeah, it feels almost like based enough in like something that could actually maybe exist in like 1,000 years or something. where you just like recycling becomes like very practical and efficient, and you can just like literally turn shit into other shit,
Right.
like 3D printing and et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, it's very cool, and it's mechanically like a cool crafting system.
Yeah. I wanted to shout it out as well at least some point, because I am noted hater of crafting systems. I don't like picking up resources and scrounging around for them. I recognize it as sort of a necessity in a game like this. And I really like, what I like about this system specifically is you can put shit into the recycler and it becomes 4 kinds of thing. So you're not like, in order to make this thing, I need like coffee grounds and a banana peel and a rock and some metal scrap. It's like, I need 1 block of organic matter and 1 block of mineral matter. And you just, and everything you get funnels into those categories. And to me, that feels way better than having to go through like an inventory full of named shit and figure out what parts you need to put together. Like, even figuring out how much of it you have is difficult in games like that.
Yeah.
And much easier here.
Yeah, it's like the extra polish, I think, that makes it work. Like, it feels intuitive. Like, I was just thinking of like Breath of the Wild or something, where it's like, it feels like the things that you combine feel like they make sense to a certain extent, so you don't have to like think or you really even read. You just like look at the icon. You're like, rock salt, wood, put them together, or like, a bunch of vegetables to make like vegetable stew, or like it's really easy to combine the shit that you want to combine.
Yeah.
And that makes the biggest difference, I think. You don't have to like read through a list and like sort and actually like sit there and think too much.
You don't have to read the recipe and check against you can toss stuff in. You can just
do it.
Yeah. I kind of agree. I wanted to say that Breath of the Wild's problem is that it does still have like, your inventory is now going to be full of like 100 different kinds of food.
There's a few too many things.
Yeah.
But it does it pretty well though.
Also, the payoff of like being able to make specific different dishes, even those that are mechanically similar, is kind of amusing in a way.
And you can experiment.
Yeah.
And you don't just have to read off of a list or unlock them.
Yeah, and it's like if you put a bunch of different stuff together, it's not always going to produce the same thing.
Yeah.
And to me, that's kind of cool. I still didn't love it, obviously. I don't know if I talked about it at all when we did our episode.
Me neither.
On that.
I'm kind of a sucker for crafting systems, though.
Yeah.
Like, as long as they're not bad. I agree. They're easy to fuck up.
Yeah.
And can be annoying.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, people, I think, generally like it.
Yeah, like, I like collectibles.
Debatably, the most popular game in the whole world has the word craft in its title.
Yeah. But yeah, I like collecting things in games, so it's always nice to actually have something to do with them.
Yeah, that was always interesting in this game, where you would see like a guy who was alive, like a living man, get killed, and you're like, oh god, hold on, you got anything in your pockets?
It unlocks your inner D&D rogue.
Yeah, your murder hobo. Or somebody gets fucking eviscerated, and you're like, well, at least I got some bananas out of it.
I didn't remember him. Maybe that guy was my best friend.
Yeah, who knows?
No sense thinking too much about it.
But yeah, so that actually it's weird, but that does make up kind of a huge amount of the gameplay loop of this game.
It's one of those games where you pick up everything, and it doesn't get, like, annoying.
No.
Or, like, tedious to do.
Yeah, I think things are spaced far enough, and importantly, they put a huge limitation on the amount of resources that they're just going to give you. You have to, like, really make shit last at times, unless you go full dark side mode, in which case you can probably just annihilate everything with your brain, which is definitely an interesting way of playing. But yeah, like having the like shotgun shells is something that you just always need to have, and if you go into something and shoot a guy a lot, you're not going to have them. So you do have to pick that stuff up. And that makes the idea of getting mineral material or whatever feel a lot better because you know that you can put it to good use at some point in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So what I wanted to ask, related to that, is how much of that material did you put into neuromods?
Could you craft neuromods?
Oh no. This is the question you're asking right now? That's bad news for me.
If there was a recipe for that, I don't think I found it.
I don't remember where it is. I know that I picked up at least 2, one of which I downloaded from a computer. So there's a couple of places you can pick up neuromods.
It is also, that's very me to have downloaded, or to have picked that up and then just never remembered it.
Okay. I used, of the times I used the fabricator, I would say about 5% of the time I was making health packs. 8% of the time I was making ammunition for guns. And 87% of the time I was making neuromods. Which is why when I was like, do you think that this number of neuromods I got was a lot? I made so many, just an unfathomable number of neuromods, because what happened to me, and I want to talk about, the reason I'm leading into this obviously is because I want to talk about the powers and the trees. I would look at those trees and I would go, oh, God, I have so many of these things. There's so many of these things that I want to do. And so the only way to feed my addiction was, because you don't know this, the requisite material that you need most for neuromods is exotic material, which you get from the Typhon. I have to kill everything. So that was my playthrough, was I murdered everybody. And took everything I could get to stuff into neuromods to make me jump higher, run faster, and take more bullets. And it was, it felt like I had a problem. It felt like the game was telling me that the neuromods,
a drug addict for neuromods.
I was exactly the splicers from BioShock and didn't realize it until like 2/3 of the way through the game. So what did you focus on in your ability trees?
See, this is something I wanted to talk about, but I feel like if you give me the tried and true boring options, I take them. Because I just hit things with a wrench and shot things with a shotgun. Pretty much exclusively. I had the ability, I don't remember what it was called, but you slow down time.
Yeah, combat focus.
Yeah, and then I would just murder things with a wrench. Like, I would stun them with the stun gun or shoot them with the glue gun, activate that, and then just wail on them. And that was, like, super effective against stuff. Because I leveled up, like, combat focus to, like, level 3 or whatever.
Right.
So I did that for once I had it up to level 3. I pretty much just only did that and tried to, like, save ammo. But yeah, like, I really like a lot of the abilities. I think they're really cool. Like, I love it's not a combat ability, but like the mimic matter, the glue gun, and I feel like I had another example of a cool thing that I'm blanking on. But I wish the game would have leaned into those more unique things that it has and not just like had a pistol and a shotgun as well. I mean, you kind of have to, but like, I felt like the unique things, like being able to use the glue gun to just like scale a wall and get to somewhere it feels like you're not supposed to be able to do, and to be able to like turn into a coffee cup to roll through a hole in the wall, is like the stuff that like you advertise, like that's cool about this game. And you could end up doing surprisingly little of that. There's not really something against the game, but like if you're someone like me, who's playing like a genre they're not super familiar with, like it's really easy to just go with like the regular shit.
Yeah, I think
like all that. I think the only Typhon ability I had was mimic matter.
Right.
Like I didn't take any of those.
I think you were fully onto something with this, because I think in the end, and I don't, it's hard to levy this strictly as a criticism because there are positives to it. But I think that they definitely should have, if not made it more difficult to just shoot stuff, they should reward you more for abstaining. Like, let you do something with enemies that you kill in a way that doesn't have to do with shooting them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, have the shotguns reduce the amount of material they give you or something, because you blast it away with buckshot or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's reasons for it. And yeah, to basically echo what you're saying, and also to kind of explain why I'm stupid.
Well, you're not. I wish I had more of that in me, because I feel like there's a lot of like cool shit like this in games, and I'm the kind of person that's never gonna take it because it feels like a waste. Like not taking like do tons of damage when you hit something. Like I can't. My brain can't not pick that.
Right. No, it makes, especially like because we're talking about games
but like
that we're
jump
unfamiliar
a million
with.
feet though. Like I wish that in hindsight you always wish that you picked those abilities.
You do want to jump a million feet for sure.
Yeah.
But I have this issue where when I'll start a game and I will want to take an option that isn't the tried and true option, and I will bounce off the game and not play it.
Yeah, I'm always worried about shit like that. I overthink these things.
Well, maybe not, because it has happened to me on multiple occasions where I'll be like, this seems like the unintuitive thing. And spoilers for my final thoughts, but I actually love this game. And part of the reason for that is the very first ability that I leveled was leverage, the ability that lets you pick up a box. And I was like, this is weird. Like, why are there 3 levels of picking up boxes? Like, that's a lot to invest into that. And so my fucking neuromod-addled brain, I didn't know it at the time, was like, there has to be some secret strategy based fully around picking up a box. And that's not wholly wrong, but it's not really a secret strategy. It's just throw a box at a guy. So for the first half of this game, like a good third of the damage that I dealt to things was just grab a thing and chuck it at them.
Throw a couch at somebody.
Yeah. Like, I got the first Typhon ability and the only Typhon ability that I had for probably 15 or 16 hours of this game was remote manipulation, which just let you pick up a box faster and from further away. So, like, I remember running around in one of the earlier areas of the game, and like, it was at the point where, like, phantoms were still, like, a difficult challenge for me. But I was able to just huck a coffee table at his face, and it would just deal 90% of his health, and then you could just easily kill him with something else. And that's what got me to keep... It was like such a vicious cycle of me being like, if I throw a coffee table at him, then I'll have to use less ammo to kill him. And if I don't have to craft ammo, I can craft more neuromods in order to increase all of my other dumb shit that I'm doing. And so I ended up loving the game because it let me do that. And it didn't, I was literally not barricaded. No barricade could hold me. But it did not, like, make the game significantly more difficult because I chose to do something that was arguably kind of dumb. And I loved that. I thought that the ability to go through things, and I do wish that they had made shooting... I wish they'd made it better for people who spec'd into it, and worse overall because it's too easy to blast a guy.
Yeah, I think, like, maybe a solution would be to start you out without guns and focus on the other things early, and then you get guns. So, like, they're here if you want them, guys.
Right.
Kind of a thing.
Yeah, because, like, the first thing that you get in the game, outside of the wrench, is the glue gun. And I think...
Or if you're me, you get the stun gun second.
Yeah, which I didn't get for fucking 8 hours. Like, I don't know how that happened.
Yeah, I guess I picked it up off of some guy really early in the game. Because I think it was the second or the third item I got.
That's so bizarre.
Yeah.
And like when I got it, I was like, this feels kind of like an early game item. It turns out it's because it was, and I'm just apparently unobservant enough to have missed it. But yeah, which both do the same thing to enemies, but also both have uses outside of combat. Mm-hmm. You're not going to find much of a use for a shotgun outside of combat.
Yeah.
It just doesn't do much. Apply a lot of force to something.
That's a great thing to highlight. That's what's so cool about the unique weapons and abilities in this, is that they don't just do stuff in combat.
Yeah.
They do stuff outside of it, and guns don't do that.
Yeah, guns are very single-minded.
Yeah. It feels kind of like switching between two modes. Like the cool, I don't even know how to really describe it. The more like expressive, fun weapons, and then there's the tried and true.
Yeah, it's kind of like the martial character problem in D&D, where you have, or in other RPGs, where you have a character who's like fully built around just smashing a face, and then you have other classes that have access to shit that does all kinds of wild stuff. And those characters feel like they have more options in more things. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, I think people generally get kind of a bit of... they're a little angry about that at times.
Yeah. At least that's separated by like a class that you choose, though.
True.
And it isn't just all of it's available to everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, I will say that this game did overwhelm me a bit with choice. Mm-hmm. And I, in the end, didn't get all that many Typhon abilities. I got several to try, to taste. But if you boiled down how I played this game, the only ones that I probably would have gotten... if I was optimizing for not using whatever 140 neuromods or however many I had installed, I would only be remote manipulation, mimic matter, and Psychoshock, the one that might not even be the right name. The electroshock, the one that makes an AoE of electricity. Those were the ones that were useful and that I used regularly, and everything else just felt like they were worse guns, except in really specific situations.
Yeah. You also had to scan enemies to get them, which I think is going to make a lot of people like not get very many, because you've already invested into certain trees by the time you unlock those, so they're less enticing to like spend resources on.
Yeah, that's true. Though, if you make 1 million...
if you make 172 neuromods... Maybe not.
Oh God. Yeah, I went a bit overboard, I will say. Okay. It is a little tangential. We'll come back to sort of playstyle stuff, I think, in a bit. I want to talk briefly, just like as a mention. This game has the Psychoscope that you pick up. That allows you to scan things like you were just talking about. Mm-hmm. Maybe my least favorite thing in the game. It's very weird because it isn't like a full-on detective vision. Mm-hmm. And it seems to serve a really singular purpose.
Yeah.
And then just go away.
Yeah. I was thinking about this too, because we talked about the scan visor in Metroid Prime, which this is what obviously made me think of. And I was thinking about how it feels like it's almost trying to iterate on that kind of idea, because like it doesn't stop the game when you put it up. Right. Like you just click in the stick and it brings it down, and it's just actively scanning shit that you're looking at. It charges up a little meter. You have to like look at the specific thing you want to scan for a little bit, and then it's like, okay, you've collected the data, or you need more, and like hit select or whatever to look at it if you want to. So it's like it's less intrusive, but I do think like there's like an expectation that it's going to be more important. Yeah, and it just kind of isn't. Like like there's like this whole like the lead up to getting it is like a part where you have to like jump down off of like a little.
It's It's like a hole in the ground.
Like, it's like a little, like, seating area, like a little auditorium or something. And then there's, like, a ledge at the bottom. You jump down, you go through a hole, and there's, like, a hole in the ground. You jump down, there's a bunch of enemies in it. And it's, like, you're sent down there to get it to progress. Like, it felt like a standout moment to me when it happened. Then you get it, and then it's just like, oh, you get this scan visor. All right, on to the next thing. Like, I don't. It just felt like it had like this like standout build up to its reveal.
Yeah.
And then it was just kind of like, whoop.
And there's like, if you try and go forward without getting it, which I didn't know I wasn't getting it. I thought I was going the right direction, but I was lost, I guess. There's like a robot voice, and it doesn't open the door. It is like, Psychoscope required beyond this point. And it'll just say it over and over and over again until you get it. And I was like, oh god, I gotta get this Psychoscope. So yeah, same thing. You pick it up and then you're like, oh, all right.
Yeah.
Like, I guess it did incentivize me to actually scan stuff. But that's it, really. It had
I think that's all it's supposed to do.
Lines on the screen that looked neat. I don't know if that's a plus or not, really.
Yeah, I think it's just an expectations thing. It just feels like it's set up to be more of a thing than it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to get that out of the way, really, because we're definitely coming up near the end of the first half.
I felt like I kind of liked it, though. It's like, because I was thinking of it like as a better Metroid Prime scan thing.
But the Metroid scan visor at least did other stuff.
True. But it was just the scan ability, but...
Yeah. I agree that I like that it gives you access to the Typhon abilities. Like, it bars it behind something. But I was often scanning things and going, never gonna get that. Like, I don't know, I definitely don't want whatever, like, some fire resistance level 3. I was like, I don't really need that. It's a lot of investment for something that doesn't come up a lot. So I don't know. I was medium on it, and then at the end of the game, I like basically forgot it existed.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's a good thing.
Well, I mean, there's not that many enemies to scan.
True. What did you think about enemy variety in the game?
I really like, this is kind of not related, but kind of also is related, but I really like the initial mimic enemies. I wish that had been more prevalent throughout the game, because I feel like they have a great setup at the beginning. You go through the little tests, and you see how like they turn into a chair. Like, the introduction to that is like really well set up and very cool. And they have like a very like simplistic little design. They look like a little starfish kind of goo thing. They like kind of like swivel around. You don't know what's the top of them, what's the bottom of them, etc., etc. And I just wish like the other enemies would have just also been mimics. Like, maybe that would have made them too like punishing or something. But like, I don't know. I just liked that theming and thought it was kind of lame that the other enemies didn't conform to that. But that might just be a personal thing. But yeah, I feel like this happens in a lot of games. Like, I understand that like you have to pick where you put your resources, but like a small enemy variety is usually something I dislike a lot.
Yeah.
This game wasn't too bad. Like, the size of the game world isn't that big, and the game's like between like 15 and 20-ish hours.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really like feel like it ever like gets too bad where you're just like, more phantoms. It gets close, but never quite gets there. Like, it doesn't push the line too far. So I thought it was kind of disappointing, but like not too bad. Like, it rides the line.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good way to look at it. I felt like most of the varieties of enemies, like, the biggest difference was between telepaths and technopaths. Very similar model, similar behavior, but the fights are really different. But mimics, greater mimics, and the like 4, I think, different varieties of phantoms with like the basic one, the fire one, the electric one, and the weird teleporty one. Not really that. The teleporting one is the most different, but it's just the one that comes directly up to your face. So if you're a shotgun guy, they're the easy ones because they just put themselves right in harm's way all the time.
Yep. And you can always pump them full of glue, slow down time, and beat them with a wrench.
That is true. I should have watched more of you playing because I didn't actually spec into combat focus at all. Just because actually I don't have a good reason for it. I felt maybe I would be like, I was like, can I use combat focus in conjunction with couches? I wasn't
possible.
Sure. I was like, better not try it. Better get this thing I won't use. But either way, I don't actually know how that goes. Mm-hmm. But I imagine, yeah, you could probably cover them with glue and hit them with a wrench.
It's so gratifying when you like hit something with the wrench in like the head and it does like a bunch of damage.
Yeah, like the critical damage.
Yeah, or like when you knock them down, like when you hit them, they just go. Brrr.
Honestly,
so satisfying.
That's the best part of the throwing a storage cube at somebody play style is that they spend most of the fight on the ground, like Will Smith in Men in Black 2. There's a reference for nobody. So, in the end, I think what makes the combat cool in the game, in addition to the fact that you can tackle it in a bunch of different ways, is the environments that you get put in. I don't like fighting a guy in a hallway so much. I feel like it's very, I guess, literally linear, because it is a straight line to where they are. You just have to find a way to put damage on them. But one of my favorite moments, maybe in the whole game, came in the power plant room. And I used the glue gun to wad up a technopath that was attacking me at the top of the thing and killed it with fall damage. Like, it just plummeted to the ground and it did the whole thing. And I was like, I didn't even know they could take fall damage. Like, I was amazed by this. So amazed I smacked my pop screen around and made a bunch of noise nobody wants to hear. And that kind of thing shows up on occasion where you'll just be like, oh, like, I'm in a room where there's like a fucking leak, a gas leak, and you could lead them into the fire and let them explode that way. It was interesting to be able to actually think about my environment in a game like this.
No, yeah, I definitely used fire and turrets to my advantage whenever I could.
Oh, yeah. Did you not install... You only ever installed Mimic Matter.
Yeah.
So the turrets were never hostile to you.
No.
That's gotta be nice.
Sure is. Yeah, like I spec'd into the repair skill, so any broken ones I ever came across, I always fixed them.
Yeah,
carried them around places.
I had to, in order to use a turret to my advantage in this, I had to hack it first, then repair it, or get around it and hack it if it isn't broken. Because after you get, I don't know what the cutoff is, like the number of neuromods you have to put in, or if it's a number of abilities. But yeah, turrets will just shoot at you because they consider you a Typhon, which is great. I love that as an idea. I didn't love it when I was being shot at, but like conceptually, I think it's really good.
They always say that thing whenever they scan you. It's like insufficient Typhon DNA detected. Right. If you're me, that's what they said.
There was a minute where all I had was remote manipulation, and I heard the line a couple of times. Oh, God. Well, do we talk about maybe more of the like quest line stuff and character beats after the break?
Yes.
Yeah. Break. Yeah. Woo. Welcome back. I had some topics that I think would be good to talk about, but I wanted to lead actually with a thing that is not a discussion topic. It's just a thing I wanted to mention. I forgot about earlier. Is that you mentioned the hologram screens? These are, one, very cool I'm a big fan of how they did these, because almost all of them you can just smash through, which leaves it like playing whatever was on it, but with a hole, and you can visually see behind it, and that was neat. Mm-hmm. But the other thing, and I bring this up not because it's a big major thing, but because people love this shit, is like, they're called Looking Glass, which is the name of the studio that made System Shock, which I have to imagine was just like, they like, gotta do it.
Yeah, I mean, it also like is a Alice in Wonderland reference, like through the Looking Glass,
right? And you can,
so you can
in
get
fact,
away with it. Yeah.
go through the Looking Glasses.
Yeah.
So, but that was cool.
I don't disagree.
The other thing, though, that this game has is you sort of like find the Looking Glasses are part of the station, and can find them like through and play things through people's like individual little machines and stuff. And you can access people's machines either the easy way, aka the way that the fucking Neuromod addict takes, which is get the hacking skill up as high as you can and then hack into everybody's computer, or through finding like passwords and shit. And I love that it keeps a log of all of the passwords and passcodes that you find, because one of the other references to former games is one of the earlier, not the first one, thank God.
It's actually surprisingly long. It's long enough into the game that I thought they weren't gonna do it.
Yeah. But one of the safe key codes, or the office key code, or whatever it was, is 0451. The classic,
the homage number.
But the guy who you get that from is your assistant, who has a workstation right outside of your office. And interestingly, their password, I love this so much, their password is just OMG hot boss. And I fucking lost my mind when I read that. Like, I thought it was so funny. I don't remember much of everyone else's passwords. They were all either like, you know, it gave like a level of character development to these characters who you will never meet.
Yeah, there's like the ones that play D&D and stuff. Like, but yeah, I don't remember any specifics either. They felt fairly like natural passwords.
Yeah, and like some people would have passwords that were better because they were like more tech savvy, and then there were other like members who weren't as much and would make their password OMG hot boss. And I just liked that little bit of characterization sprinkled through.
That was one of my favorite things to do, like when it came to like the exploration of the area, was like finding people's passwords. Because I did not take the hacking abilities. I think I had hacking 1.
I feel like the game almost necessitates you to take the first level.
I hacked almost nothing throughout the game, so
I spent so much time hacking near the end of the game. The military operators who show up after Dahl gets on the station, I think are hacking level 4. If not, they're hacking level 3. And I was mostly defenseless against them until I then later... Well, no, I probably had electroshock at that point. But it was helpful to hack them because they would shoot lasers at the other ones and then you wouldn't die as fast. So I was doing a ton. I would like sneak up on one and hack one, and then I would start the combat. And it just takes a very long time to do, but it was just something I ended up doing. So there's probably like, I probably had like a good 20 minutes of my playtime was just hacking.
Yeah, I think I hacked 4 things.
I do wish this game kept more thorough stats. Actually, it might, now that I'm thinking about it. I hacked a lot of stuff. I could not leave a room unchecked.
Yeah.
It was not a thing I was like prepared for emotionally.
Yeah, I feel like I just didn't really notice the hacking icon on stuff for like a long time.
Sure, yeah.
Till like halfway through the game.
Yeah, it's like the keycard locks you can't hack, but like computers,
Yeah.
safes, like lots of rooms, like lots of stuff you could just break into. And I was like, that's me. I'm the guy who breaks into stuff. That is, in fact, how you get the... Well, there's probably a non-hacking way to do this. To get the key card, to get the... Not the key card, but the launch card to get the ending where you just leave the station is in Alex's personal room. And in order to get in there... No, you get a key card to get in there. His computer, I think, is a level 4 hack.
Yeah, the one in his office, I think, is... But no, he gives you the password.
Yeah, he
and
does
then he makes
eventually.
a cheeky thing about how, here's a password if you haven't already started hacking into it.
Uh-huh.
Blah,
Which
blah, blah.
I did.
Yeah.
Actually, no, I hadn't hacked into it when he gave it to me because I didn't have hacking 4 yet. But I sure would have. Undoubtedly. But yeah, it's very, like... It taps into that, like, lightly voyeuristic idea of just, like, I gotta look at everybody's fucking emails, which I don't know why that's compelling. It was interesting to get to go through and, like, when you got a duplicate email that was, like, somebody else's email, and then you got their response back by getting into the other person's computer.
Yeah, it's specifically interesting in this kind of context where it's like you're gaining information about people who have like are dead, like something like Outer Wilds. Like you scan runes and you like or like journal entries and things from people who have died, and it's just like an interesting way to like piece together like a narrative or a history. It just has that kind of flavor to it.
Yeah. It's kind of the opposite of Tacoma, where you're finding out... Though you don't know it, I guess, at the beginning of Tacoma. Because the people that you're finding stuff out about in that game aren't actually dead.
Right, and you knew them. No, you didn't.
You don't, yeah, you don't
right,
know
now,
them.
yeah. Never mind.
So you end up getting, like, all of this information about these characters through sort of, like, almost an archaeological means. And I mean, this isn't unique to this game necessarily, but it does like provide an incentive and like drive the player to do stuff, which I think is really neat. I think it's a cool way.
Yeah, it's definitely a standout part. It's like, and it's fun to have like been reading emails for certain characters and then meet them.
Right.
You know, it's cool because you never know who you're gonna run into. No, but on the first half of the cast, you briefly mentioned the environment, the game environment.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk a little bit about that, and I wanted to know what you think about it, and if I'm just like an asshole or something, because one of my least favorite things about this genre of immersive sim is that I feel like they always take place in like a facility.
Sure.
I don't know. It's always like a hard sell for me for these kinds of games, and it's weirdly one of the top reasons why. Or it's just like, oh, it's like the scaffolding, like catwalks and like big old pipes and big like generator rooms and computer terminals, and it just, I don't know, I just feel like that's kind of played out and boring.
Yeah. I'm going to say you're an asshole.
Because, like, space stations are cool. I like the part where you get to go out in space. Like, the Arboretum is nice. But, like, most of it's just, like, research facility corridors.
Yeah, I'm saying you're an asshole exclusively as revenge for the time that you were like, oh, I'm Chad, I don't think this looks much like a castle on the Amnesia episode.
I love that you bring that up, because every time I listen back to that, I then make the same point later about how it doesn't look much like a castle, and I think I just, like, misunderstood what you meant when you said it the first time. And I just need to call myself out.
With that beef cleared up. No, it's kind of boring. I wish that there were, I think, like, there's so many instances of things that could have been cooler on a visual level that they didn't take, and maybe it's a lot of work. Another thing is that you have to be really careful with like what you give the player the option to do, because you have to have kind of a controlled environment when you give your player a lot of stuff that they can access. Like I was showing you at the end of the game, I had the ability to jump really high from a neuromod, a chipset that made it so that when I activated the jetpack, it gave me thrust instead of like a slow descent. So essentially had a double jump, and my jump was way higher than it was supposed to be. So if they had this big intrinsic, this big intricate zone for you to jump around in, I could have probably accessed some stuff that I shouldn't have been able to, that they would have had to like give collision to, that maybe they wouldn't want to because they didn't think people would want to get up there. And it would have wasted my time, broken their game, and probably killed me. So there's a lot of things, I guess, that could lead to it. But like, I don't want to crawl through the same fucking maintenance corridor again. Like, it's the same like, I'm in the Arboretum, I open a door, a little hatch, and I go into a mostly gray room with red piping. And then I'm in life support, and I open a maintenance hatch, and I'm in a gray room with red piping. And I'm like, I can't even keep these areas, like, different in my mind. And yeah, it would have been cool if there was a little bit more theming, a little bit more visual variety. You mentioned the Arboretum. It fucking does look sick when you're just in it. But outside of that, it's kind of a lot of...
Yeah, it makes me appreciate BioShock all the more, and like the clear effort they made to like make it interesting. Like...
Visually,
yeah. Yeah, they decided to make a good game.
Yeah, Prey was like, okay, let's make this boring ass game.
Yeah, no, but yeah, visually interesting. And even that has parts that kind of feel like a facility.
Yeah. You look at this game, like, from a purely aesthetic perspective, and like...
I mean, graphically, it looks great.
Yeah, and you fly by that fucking Arcane logo on that skyscraper.
Yeah. Like, the one part I did think was really cool was the guts, like, shaft, whatever that was, like, the zero gravity, like, thing that connected all the zones together. Yeah. I thought that was really awesome. Like, a cool inclusion.
Yeah, it was really sick, and I was also really glad to not ever have to go back there. It's just going through things in Zero G is very, like, tedious to me. There's some places, obviously, where you have to exit the space station.
Yeah, and those are also kind of highlights.
Yeah, and they look really cool. But it was, like, a weird, like, back and forth for me, where it's like, I don't really like being outside, but also, it does, it's really impressive looking. Like, being able to look down the whole length of the space station is cool. And kind of, probably not as technically, like, intricate as I'm thinking it is. But the fact that, like, it has, like, a realistic sense of scale, where you know where you are in the space station when you leave, and going to where you want to be by, like, arcing over it, is like, God, like, you can imagine, like, the stuff inside where you were skipping essentially to get there.
I mean, it probably was designed like that. Like, it does actually all, like, make sense and, like, would fit together spatially, like, correctly.
Yeah. It's really fucking nice looking. But I agree. I think you look at it with, like, the interior design, not, like, the decor, but like the design of each of the areas is very samey. All the enemies are black goo
monsters,
or the same shape robot with just a different name.
I did like the design of those robots.
Oh yeah,
just as a random thing, because like they kind of look like computer towers.
They kind of look like a PlayStation 5
a little bit, but they're not quite as big as the PlayStation 5.
Yeah, you're right. And only some of them have flamethrowers.
Like, yeah. But I just thought it was like a really impressive, like, effort of like a not so distant future sci-fi aesthetic. Like, I think some of like the designs, like I said, like the fabricator and like the robots and things feel like reasonable projections for like stuff that could exist.
Yeah.
A bit, obviously a bit fantastical, but like if hovering robot assistants existed, like that's probably something kind of like what they would look like.
Yeah.
It feels reasonable.
I mean, I agree. And like the idea of the fabricators isn't like Yeah, they do just sort of scan a laser beam and the robots pop into existence, but like that's just like a sped up version of shit that we can do. Is you press a button and have a extensive AutoCAD design and something will spit material into a blob until it looks like the thing you want it to look like. This game is set like 8 years from now.
Is it?
It's like 20. It's in the 2030s.
Oh,
is
I
when
thought
the
it
game
was
comes
like
out.
I thought it was like 2060 something.
No, well, I think maybe post game. Maybe I'm not sure.
I mean, you would probably remember better than me, but
That's not ever true. But I will find out briefly.
I just really like speculative future stuff like that. I just
Yeah.
think it's cool. Like I appreciate that effort that goes into like trying to make it feel like more like grounded.
2035.
Well, there you go. That's actually kind of a pet peeve of mine then. Like
that it's that
like
soon.
yeah, like whenever they do like future stories, they like set it way too like close to now instead of like going like add 50 years onto that number like whatever you said. like Blade Runner, the
Right.
original Blade Runner took place in like 2015 or something like that, and so now it just feels silly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because this did just come out in 2017. So they gave themselves 20 years from the period that it came out to when. The Talos space station, which in the lore of the game is like a remnants of multiple countries' space flight efforts repurposed into the Talos 1 space station by the Transtar Corporation, happened in 2025, which is 3 years from today. And like we had like the ISS is a real thing. Like it's a big space station that's up in the sky. And theoretically a company I guess could buy it out. And that would be reasonable for 2025. But it's implied that they had floating robots. I think maybe the thing that's supposed to be, because it's an alternate timeline fully with like a bunch of different stuff happening. Like it like weirdly stems from like the Cold War, and like somehow something going differently there is what ripples out. I read all of these logs at some point and have just forgotten. But I think like with the key thing is the neuromod. Is they're like, if we had neuromods, science would evolve so much faster. And then also bring ruin to the earth. But it's really interesting. I don't know how I feel about how near future it is.
Yeah, it's just a personal like pet peeve.
It is. It's funny. Though.
It's like
when you read it, it makes you laugh.
It's like, but it's so common. Like Back to the Future, same thing.
Yeah.
Like they pick. I can't imagine picking a date that felt like I'm going to live to see for like a science fiction story. I don't know.
Would you, Andy, not the character Morgan Yu as being played by Andy, install a neuromod?
Before or after playing the game? If you would have asked me like a month ago, I probably would have been no.
Note that you do have to stab your eyeball.
Yeah, I feel like I would not.
No, you would not install a neuromod?
No.
The way that it's advertised in the game, I feel like I would have been one of the suckers. I would have been suckered into installing neuromods.
I don't like the idea of like mutating myself is kind of like something I would be squeamish about, I think.
This is the prey content people came for. I want to be able to jump real high.
I mean, that would be tempting. It would be tempting to have like superhuman abilities.
If anything, after playing Prey, I'd be less likely to install the neuromod, but not because of the alien DNA. Because I know that from the game, after you jump real high, if you don't have a jetpack, you will shatter your legs. I guess, so that's a little dangerous.
Yeah. I feel like I couldn't not have the mindset of like, this always works in the comic books. But in real life, I'm probably just going to get cancer.
Right. So let us know in the comments. Would you install a neuromod? What is your favorite neuromod that you would install? Would you install 137 neuromods?
Well, I mean, if you've already installed one, you know.
It's like tattoos. After you get your first one, you're like, might as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned before the break talking a bit about the quest structure. I don't know how deep you got into like doing side quests and stuff, because I know you're working on a limited time scale here.
Not very. I would have liked to have had more time to do some stuff, but yeah, I've not had the time recently.
How do you feel about, then sort of, we're kind of abstracting from that, the prevalence of Big Arrow in the game? The corporation Big Arrow that puts a
quest marker.
Yeah, that's just constantly visible. Do you think it was necessary in this game? And would you, like you usually do, advocate for turning it off and trying to navigate with signs?
I actually hadn't really thought about it in this one. I was really annoyed that the quest marker would often just like point you towards the door to the next area and say like multiple objectives over there.
Right.
It made it feel kind of unhelpful in a number of places. Yeah, I feel like it's kind of tricky because I did feel like, as we were talking, like the space station, a lot of it looks kind of samey, and I did find it kind of hard to navigate early on. But like once you know the space is actually not that big,
right? So
you could very reasonably navigate it without the help. I'd say, I feel like I would leave it on. I just wish it was a little less, or it was a little bit better implemented.
Yeah, it is tricky. That's a good word for it. I don't know how exactly I would describe it, because this is a game where the world itself is rich with like natural navigational aids. There's tons of stuff that just tells you where shit is, what room you're looking at, all that stuff. And you can check your objectives to know where you're supposed to be going. And that makes me lean toward, like, maybe it would be cool if it didn't have an arrow. And when I think about it, I think, like, part of the thing that makes it work without it is the use of the map. But the map is also kind of, like, irritating to have to pull up and look at all the time. So I'm also torn. I think I like the ease of navigation that the arrow brings more than I would in a similar game with a smaller area, maybe. But it feels like it's like almost a missed opportunity to make the game feel more immersive.
Yeah. Now, I 10 times out of 10 would rather have this than a mini-map.
Yeah.
Fuck mini-maps. But because you're still looking at the game and not at the corner of the screen. But yeah, it feels like, because this game, like the whole conversation about like doing a game without maps, like you really have to design for that and make it like not just like the spaces, like you're saying, like signposts and things to help the player navigate, but you also have to like design the campaign or the quest with that in mind. So like you really have to have it set up from the beginning that you want to do that. And I just feel like a lot of projects, especially AAA ones, just like don't always have the luxury of planning like that.
Yeah.
So you get quest arrows and mini maps. So yeah, in a perfect world, I think this game could have pulled off no map, but you know, we get the arrow. We got the arrow. So I feel like they picked the lesser of two evils, in my opinion.
That's probably true. I definitely would not want like the Metal Gear Soliton radar in this one. It would have taken away from sort of the atmosphere.
For sure.
Yeah. What you got in your notes there?
I have a really dumb note.
Good.
This game made me a little bit nostalgic for keycards.
Hey.
Because I feel like they were a thing in the 90s, like in video games, like Pokemon, I can remember really well, the Silphco building, you had to collect key cards.
Yeah.
I don't know why that stands out in my memory so much, But like, because I feel like it was like a newer like technology, like a novelty. Like, oh, I use this little plastic card to unlock doors. And
sorcery.
Yeah, so sorcery. I know, right? But I just feel like it popped up in games like 25 years ago, and then they went away. And I like it when they pop up now. It always makes me nostalgic.
Yeah,
it's a weird thing, but
I agree. Also, aesthetically, they work so much better than keys, especially if your game's set in a modern setting. But like, even like if it's an ambiguous setting, it's so much easier to imagine your character with just like a loop of
like
cards.
A card,
yeah, than like literally running around like a fucking janitor with just like a giant key ring. Oh, get the residence key, get in there, open that up. It just seems very unbelievable and silly. Obviously I'm not recommending putting key cards in Dark Souls, but like you get what I'm going for. It's just weird. I liked the collection aspect of them as well. It makes you a little giddy when you pick up a card and you're like, oh, now I can go into that storage room that I've been eyeing. It's a good mechanic, and yeah, key card, bring them back. Hashtag bring back key cards. That does necessitate setting more games on like in a facility though.
Yeah,
it's the evil.
You have to go with a more modern setting.
Oh, you could do a hotel game.
Yeah. Luigi's Mansion. Should have had key cards.
Could have had key cards. Coulda, shoulda, key cards.
That's our new company that we're starting. We're gonna manufacture key cards. Try to bring them back.
So tell your friends, tell your grandmas. Okay, I wanted to mention I had one more thing, and I am out after that. And that is, you scared of this game?
I feel like a couple of the other things, the elements of the game that I mentioned earlier, like I think it starts out kind of menacing and spooky at the beginning, and then that kind of like goes away as the game goes on.
Yeah, this is a game that has, I mean, the mimics conceptually.
Like any room you go into, there could be enemies and you don't know, was like really effective in the beginning. It's
like there really could be a different game that has a lot of the same stuff, and it is just, it's not this one because this game has a lot of different ways of dealing with the enemies. But it's such a scary concept, and I was actually a little bit shocked at how non-frightened I was. I was
Bioshocked.
I was system shocked by
there you go.
Yeah. By how little effect they had on me. I was somehow trying to shove Shoulda in there. I was like, how does this work?
I remember getting into the lobby for the first time, and like the turret is like broken, and like the guy comes around the corner where you try to go to the elevator.
Yeah.
Like, that was pretty scary.
Sure was. I actually want to...
Is that the introduction of the Phantoms, I think?
I think so, yeah.
It's very good.
It's either there or it's in Hardware Labs. It doesn't matter. It's still scurry. The lobby thing did remind me of one of the best horror moments of this game for me. And it is not an intended horror moment. It's just an example of like the emergent gameplay that this game likes to try and create. And that is, one time I was in the lobby and was walking across the bridge on the third floor and just fucking fell because one of the glass panels got shot out, and I didn't notice.
I shot the floor and just fell because something came at me and I shot at it and it just broke the glass under me.
So you used it tactically?
No.
And I wily coyoted off into the abyss.
Mine was just a pure accident. Like the enemy was jumping at me, and I was trying to shoot at it, and because it was so close to me, the bullet missed and hit the ground, and I fell.
It fell through.
Yeah.
That's extremely good. I almost wish that like half the floors in this were made of glass for shit like that. I loved that. That's the kind of like, that's the stuff I was talking about with the like look at the environment, like shoot the gas lines or whatever. But the fact that it remained broken to the point where I forgot and then fell off is really good, and scared the shit out of me.
It wasn't super scary, but it was like startling / effective. I thought it was like a later part of the game where a med kit falls out of the elevator or one of the lifts, and then it's a mimic. Like, it feels obvious, when I'm just saying it, but like in the moment you see it and you're like, oh, a med pack.
Right.
It's like two mimics.
Yeah.
It's like the one time they used, I think, a mimic in like the most classic sense where they disguised it as a pickup.
Yeah. Well, there's the one that's in the God damn it, in Psychotronics, I think. There's like a office you can get into that has a fabricator in it, and there's an item on the fabricator belt, and it is also a mimic.
Yep, I remember that one too.
Yep. So there are definitely like a couple of situations where the mimics really get you.
Yeah.
Sadly, like the difference between a mimic and a greater mimic was like,
I don't even know what the difference is except more health.
Yeah, they just have more health, do more damage. I think greater mimics can become more complex objects, but I'm not actually sure of that. If there was more of a difference, they could have opened up a whole other world of horror moments.
Yeah. I really wish they would have kept the enemies to just mimics for longer and really milked that.
Yeah.
Just as a stray thought, I really liked the monitors and like the touchscreen menus and things in the game. Like, I like that they are designed in such a way that you just walk up to them and use them like you would in real life, like part of that immersive sim element of it.
Yeah.
Just really effectively done. Like, you don't have to like. There's a lot of games where like you'll pick up something to read it and then it'll be like hit Y to just like put text because it's like handwritten or something.
Yeah.
They have to put like a menu overlay. Like, I like that all the text was just like in the game and like very legible and just looked good. Like, well considered, well executed.
Yeah, what it lacks in the like immersive quality of like picking up a handwritten note and reading, it makes up for in not having to then abstract it so that somebody who can't read the handwriting doesn't have to pull up a overlay.
Yeah.
It's good like that. I will say I didn't love the audio logs, but that's not really fucking a thing to care about, I don't think. They were well voice acted and shit. It was just like, God, there were a lot of them, and according to my achievements, I picked up all of them.
Yeah.
So there's a definite like overload of audio involvement in this game at times.
Yeah, I was okay with it because they're the kind that you can just let play while you walk around. So.
That is the best kind.
Yeah. So, I mean, this kind of game has audio logs.
Yeah.
So
no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Well, do we have no, too obvious? Do we have fabricated thoughts? An original idea by Chad?
My fabricated thoughts original idea by Chad Rotherman, trademark. I liked this game. I really liked the demo when you showed it to me back when it came out, and like this, as I was talking, and is probably evident. Like, this isn't my favorite genre. I didn't really play anything like this when I was younger, and I think that really impacts my tastes like it does a lot of other people's. But I don't dislike them at all, but there's just enough stuff to do with like presentation and like shooting mechanics are usually just not my favorite. So they never really are like a big draw to me, but like I have enjoyed the ones that I've played, and I liked this one quite a bit. And like, yeah, Yeah, it's just little like personal things are really the kind of things that I take issue with in this. Like I would have liked a little bit more of like visual variety. Like I think if anyone ever makes an immersive sim with like a more unique location, that could be like a really cool selling point. So that any aspiring developers out there. But yeah, like it's really well made. Like it's surprising. Like when you hear like, oh, they're gonna reboot like some PS3 or not PS3, Xbox 360 first-person shooter that like had a niche audience. Like you don't really expect much, but it feels like this came out in 2017 and really like embodies the best a lot of like those design trends of the time. Like it just feels like a really really well put together like immersive sim. And I imagine like people who are into these sorts of games probably sing its praises for the most part, because I feel like it really delivers. Yeah, I really like the glue gun. I don't think we mentioned it, but like the recycling bomb.
Yeah.
The mimic matter, like all the cool unique abilities, really carried it. Some cool set piece moments. So yeah, really really good game. In a genre that's not really my thing. So like liked it a lot. And it's a testament to its quality, I think, that I liked it as much as I did.
Yeah. So coming into this, something that I had like is sitting in the back of my mind when this got suggested was, dang, I just played Deathloop like a minute ago. And I actually was going to suggest that one for the podcast. It's another Arcane game, and it's one that is much more similar to Dishonored than it is to Prey, but the whole catalog, really, of Arcane has kind of a through line, a mechanical through line of how you interact with things. And so we sort of put that on the back burner to talk about this, and I'm so fucking happy we did. This game is way more my speed than Dishonored was. It's really not I don't jive with the setting so much, and the mechanics of it were just sort of like, I felt like I was being punished for doing the things that I wanted to do. And Prey is the opposite. Prey said, you did some shit, you fucked yourself over by putting all of your eggs in the wrong basket, but we're gonna make it work for you. And I really liked that. That's my big takeaway for Prey, is no matter what you choose to do in this game, you can force it to work. And I loved experimenting with new and different things in it. Everything that Andy said also is pretty accurate, I think. I am not deep in the immersive sim community necessarily. For example, the only Deus Ex game I've played is Invisible War. That's going to be shocking, I think, for some people to hear. But this one really, it hits the spot that the original System Shock 2 did. The real original. And made me like open up my eyes to the genre again. I like thinking about the encounters that I have and trying to do things in new and different ways. And the game has a quick save function, which is used to great effect when you're trying to do wacky shit, and I do like that. People might argue it makes the game a bit too easy, but I think it makes the game more fun. So yeah, heavy praise from me for this game. Liked it a lot. Great suggestion. Moving on. Thank you for listening to No Clip this week.
What are we talking about next time?
Next time, we're going to be talking about Shovel Knight, a game both of us have played a little bit of, and to buy us time to sink even more time into Elden Ring before we do an episode on that.
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to it, though, because like Shovel Knight's a game that I only picked up once we started the podcast and have like tried to squeeze it in in between games and have never been able to.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be nice to like go back and scratch something off the backlog.
Yeah. And actually, as somebody who recently had the experience of trying to buy Shovel Knight, if you haven't played it and you want to play it along with us, we're just going to be talking about the regular Shovel Knight campaign. There are like 100 weird variations on Shovel Knight at this point.
Yeah, there's at least 2 beefy DLCs
Mm-hmm.
featuring completely different characters with different mechanics. So
Yeah. Maybe that'll be like fodder for a different episode if we want to come back to it. But do not think that we're going to come in and be like, we play 4 games.
No Plague Knight, no King Knight,
Right.
no Plague Knight. Those are
Spectre
the ones.
Knight?
Spectre Knight.
Yeah.
I already said Plague Knight.
Yeah. So until that time, you can get a hold of us. All of our contact information is on our website at noclippodcast.com or on splattershot.pro, where you can find links to the Discord server where we got the wonderful suggestions for this month. We have one more to close out over on Pocket, so keep your eyes out for that. You can find our email address, our Twitter account. You can find all of our old episodes, including buddy
BioShock.
We did talk about BioShock a billion years ago. And we did a space station game at some point.
Tacoma?
Right? Did Tacoma. That's a good one to check out. We just did Everspace.
Yeah. That's also Gone Home and something else from a million years ago. Oh, Portal.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, only old games.
Only old
relate
games.
to this one, except for Tacoma.
Fanbruary, more like Space Brewery. Those are all of them, huh? Yep. Hit the like button in a lot of different ways.
Watch out for all the mimics down in the comments section.
Yeah. Psycho subscribe for 25 psi.
Use the glue gun to make a makeshift staircase up to the bell so you can ring it.
Do those things. Being off would do it. Yep, there we are. Smile fades the summer. Pray 2006 is a real bummer.